My name is Yvonne Stanford. I live in the neighborhood of Sunnyside in Calgary. I'm retired from my professional work, so my work in the community is on a volunteer basis, and Social Workers for Social Justice is my home, my sisters. For me, it's a systemic solution to so-called welfare system or poverty reduction that we've been doing for decades, up and down, sometimes better, sometimes worse, but really never eliminating poverty and unprecedented inequality that we wouldn't have dreamed of, say, from my childhood. So for me, basic income is not a silver bullet, but is a better solution than anything we've tried to date. Hard work in a confederation like Canada, because we need our provincial and our federal governments to collaborate, given the way we have the division of responsibilities and powers, but work that we can do. And for me, a chance to get it right, I guess, after decades of trying and not doing so well. There's one thing about the world being so mucked up is that there's lots of work to do, and this is the work that I think we have to get on board for. It's we have enough results. We know the cost of poverty. For me, I come to basic income from a human rights perspective. By virtue of being human, you're entitled to have your basic needs met and to be able to participate in your community. That's what being human means. And for so many of us, that is not possible because of poverty. That's what basic income means to me, a chance to get it right. And a global movement, and we're building it here. Well, we work together, and when we say basic income, we usually say a principled basic income, because there's a whole spectrum of what basic income can mean historically and even now. So we carefully, in both the Basic Income Canada network, of which the Calgary group is an action group of, and very carefully here in Calgary, have defined our principles, so that we are clear that we're not talking bare survival, we're talking about adequacy. We're not talking about 200 regulations in order to qualify for even an adequate income. By virtue of being human, you are entitled to it. We talk about, we're talking income support. We're not talking all of the other social supports that as Albertans and as Canadians we have the resources to do. I go back to the fight for Medicare. I had a Medicare baby in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, the summer that Saskatchewan was trying Medicare, which was a dream. How could this possibly be? And of course the doctors went on strike that summer when my baby was due, and the concern, along with, oh, this is utopia. People will just live at hospitals, they'll overuse medical services, and of course the doctors were afraid of their incomes. But flash forward, and no one can take Medicare away from Canadians now. Any talk about it is improving it, expanding it from what it covers now, rather than, there isn't a political party or a politician who would dare touch Medicare in Canada now. So going forward, that's what I see basic income, along with a robust social support system that, of course, we continue to fight for. And in Social Workers for Social Justice, we debate if improvements, like say to improving social assistance or having improving the whole concept of asset stripping before you can qualify for something, all of those tweaks, if you like, we say sure, but let's keep our eye on the ball for a more systemic solution that is dignified and that is universal. That's what basic income means to me. I don't think it's a dream. I like the utopia for realists. For me, one of the organizing difficulties is being clear about anti-poverty work, human rights work, concerns about full employment as we move into artificial intelligence and the world changes that way, not being enough work for everybody. The difficulty that I find in these initial conversations anyway is that there are many reasons for basic income. Anti-poverty and human rights is where I come from, but when I talk to privileged seniors, for example, who left university decades ago as I did and got decent paying jobs and pensions and have been living a privileged life, and there's still a tendency to poor bash. If you're poor, you just didn't want to work, or and that of course is a concern with basic income. People will just stay home on their couches if they don't have to go to work. That's not my view of human beings. I think we all want to contribute. I think many of us are doing unpaid work that is absolutely necessary in our communities. And I'm not just talking child rearing or seniors care. I'm talking about making our communities what we want them to be, what we want Alberta to be. So for me, those are the challenges in organizing at this point in our basic income movement, is finding the sweet spot with who you're talking to. And using the example of a seniors group, for instance, they were doing in the initial discussion a lot of that, what I think of as poor bashing, blaming people living in poverty for their poverty, until you bring the conversation to their grandchildren who are coming out of university. They know that they're not stupid, lazy people. They're personally attached to them, and they can't find work. So then, okay, there's a way to reach them. They're human beings. Some argue, along with basic income, we should be reducing the work week, because there's a definition of work that includes unpaid caring work. So how about the paid work if we're running out of jobs with artificial intelligence and technology? Those are arguments that we sometimes can have if you have an opportunity for conversation. But I guess in sum, basic income is complex, it's long-term. People living in poverty have every right to say how much longer is this going to take, and we hear that. So we need to work hard and fast and support the poverty reduction initiatives that are going on, and of course along with all of the other social support systems that need to be vigorous and comprehensive. But I think of basic income as systemic, as comprehensive, as what we mean when we say we are humans, what we mean when we say we are Albertans who care, Canadians who care. That means for all of us, easy, because it's so complex, but it's so easy to go into design arguments. Well, how much? We've been arguing what is poverty for decades, and well, now we have a national market basket measure for poverty. In my opinion, it's not adequate enough, but I'm not sure that generally working in the community and building broad movements is the place to do the complex tax and costing, and that's why I like our principled basic income, our consensus on what it should be, our work with governments always includes you need a diverse and broad advisory committee to work with, say, the tax experts or the policy experts or the researchers as they work to implement either a pilot or just go for it, give it a try. That needs to be advised and principled. And the arguments around design are sometimes frustrating because so much of it is technical, so much of it is, I don't mean leave it to the experts, but I mean experts need to figure it out, researchers need to figure it out. There's lots for us to build on now, and a diverse, truly diverse group of community advising and keeping track that the principles are being honored while it's worked out. I don't think that's impossible to do. We've done it before. Well, I'm an organizer, not a researcher. My work has always been as an activist, and I learned to describe myself as an organizer. We need researchers too, of course, particularly on something as complex as universal basic income guaranteed, but I focus on the organizing, and that's what we're doing here in Calgary and hopefully in Alberta. Bringing people together, educating them what it means, what the possibilities are, what's wrong now. There are many Albertans who don't even recognize that 1 in 10 Calgarians are living in poverty, and what does that poverty look like? So organizing to me means educating, showing, come and join us, and ultimately affecting our elections and our political parties, but building a movement like we did with Medicare. And then it can't be changed, it can't be cancelled. So yes, come and join us in Basic Income Calgary and Basic Income Alberta, and we'll build a movement and make it possible.